Hi guys, so today is a very special day. It is the 26th of May 2024 and that means it has been 10 years since I moved back to Rwanda. So I was originally a VSO volunteer. I arrived in 2007 and I left at the end of 2009. And then I found myself back here in 2014. I was just passing through, visiting some friends, but then I stayed. I ended up with a business and a home and cats, and yeah, so I've been in Rwanda now for 10 years straight since then. So I wasn't really sure how to commemorate this, so what I've decided to do is a whirlwind tour of the past 10 years. So for each of those 10 years, I'm just going to try and focus in on one big memory and share some photographs of an event that happened in each of those years. So let's go. So when I landed 10 years ago, my lovely friend Joe picked me up at the airport and we drove through Kigali singing Empire State of Mind at the top of our voices. I moved into a shared house in Kagugu, and it's fair to say I went a little bit wild in those first few months. But my standout memory from that first year is that Joe had befriended an architect working on the Kigali Convention Centre, which was under construction at the time. I got to go on a guided tour. I got to stand on the roof of Radisson and walk through the dome as it was being built. It was a very cool experience. After a brief stay in an awful apartment in Gikondo and then a gorgeous house in Kanombe, I settled into my forever home in Kachiru. My overriding memory that year was of meeting my friend Lambert and accompanying him to DRC. Back when I was a VSO volunteer, we weren't allowed to cross into DRC or Burundi. In 2000, a VSO volunteer by the name of Charlotte Wilson had been shot in a bus hijacking, along with her Burundian fiancé, Richard Nderiamana. So there were a lot of safety concerns. Coming back as a private individual, this restriction no longer applied, and so I was able to travel with Lambert down through Sake to a village called Nyamitaba to help with a feasibility assessment for a project that his charity was considering. I also visited Mugunga refugee camp and a local orphanage. It's a trip that has remained with me as one that taught me a lot about the Kivu region of DRC and also about myself. 2016 comes with fluffier memories. My friend Katie at Inzora had started offering Kinyarwanda courses. I decided to join one as I wanted to brush up my basics. At one of these lessons, Katie came in with an armful of adorable kittens. She had found them abandoned in a bag on the street outside and asked if anybody would take them home. Everyone else very sensibly stared at the floor, but I slowly raised my hand. And the rest is history. There were 4 originally. Sadly, we lost one early on, and another, Sophie, died at the beginning of this year after complications relating to an operation. But 2 are still with me, Howl and Sen, and they were joined by another ball of terror and floof, baby Jazz, in 2022. You know you're settled somewhere when you get cats. This was the year I met Desiree, my friend who has a carpentry workshop, and we decided to embark on a piano project to try to build the first piano made in Rwanda. It's also the year I started to learn to tune and repair pianos, which eventually turned into a business. The first couple of years of this project were incredibly productive. After a couple of attempts, we teamed up with Chillington to forge a string frame, and Des put together the casing and keys. We're still working on it, but we hit a few bumps along the way that have considerably slowed down our progress. If you want to follow along, you can check out my other channel, Kigali Keys. There are a couple of big memories from 2018. I had met and befriended a PhD student called Harris, who was in Rwanda conducting research into diabetes management. He invited me to give a TEDx talk at the University of Luxembourg, so after a couple of months of rehearsal, I flew out there and gave my talk. It was an amazing experience. I'll leave the link below if you want to watch it. A second lovely memory from 2018 was a holiday I took with my good friend Maya to Ijwe Island. This is a huge island in the middle of Lake Kivu, between Rwanda and DRC. Although it does belong to Congo, it is considered one of the safer places to visit in the region. We took a motor ride all the way from the north to the south of the island. I even stumbled across some rock art, which apparently turned out to be Batwa hieroglyphs. It was a really amazing adventure. Hands down, my best memory of 2019 was when my mum and her partner Merrick came to visit. My family very rarely come to visit me. My dad and Marilyn had been here in 2008, the year after I first moved to Rwanda, and I caught up with a couple of my cousins, Tamsin and Connor, who passed through Rwanda for work and travel. But this was the first time my mum had been. We had an absolutely fantastic time visiting Gisenyi, Kibuye, Nyanza and Akagera. Lots of wonderful memories. They really loved Rwanda. The dreaded year of COVID. At the time, I used to go for weekly brunch with friends. On the 15th of March, the news about COVID had just broken. We went to Heaven for brunch and were joking that this would be our last supper. It turned out it was, as we all went into lockdown a few days later. I had just enough time to say goodbye to my friend Nick, who was being forced to end his placement early as Peace Corps were evacuating. Expats had to make a very quick decision whether they were going to try to get back to their home countries or remain. Almost all of us chose to remain, and it was a good decision. Rwanda really stepped up its home delivery service and handled the pandemic extremely well. I got 2 rounds of the Pfizer vaccine, and then a third when the UK opened up again and I was able to visit family. This was the year I turned 40. I was 26 when I first came to Rwanda. How the time flies. Thankfully, we weren't in lockdown on my actual birthday, so the girls took me for a pedicure and cake. All of the pools in Kigali were closed, except for one, which you could go to by appointment. So they bought me a day at the pool. It was lovely, as I had the whole place to myself. This was also around the time I took up boxing, as it was something you could do at home, and there was a personal trainer who was really good. I think a lot of expat women took up boxing around that time. After a trip back to the UK to see family, I decided to start paying YouTube a little more attention than I had been. This was about the time that I started to take more videos and fewer photos. It was also the year I added Jazz to my cat collection. I was sitting at home one day when I heard a kitten crying. It sounded very distressed, so I went out to look for it. He was just in the alleyway opposite my house, clearly separated from his mum. So I scooped him up and brought him home. He was a bit stinky, so I cleaned him up, and he slept for about 5 hours. He was totally exhausted, the poor mite, but he's growing up to be an upstanding member of the feline community. The world opened up again after COVID, and Harris and husband Rob came to visit. We went on an awesome road trip around Rwanda. I'll leave the link to that playlist below. It really was a wonderful trip. We headed up to Gisenyi, Kibuye, Nyungwe Forest, and hung out in Kigali. So, that's 10 years been and gone. Lots of fun memories and entertaining times. It'll be interesting to see if I'm still here in another 10 years. If you'd like to, you can let me know your favourite memories from the past 10 years in the comments below. And if you enjoy my content, please give it a like and consider subscribing.